We need our highways to get from point A to B. Pretty simple, right? But they are causing serious problems for wildlife across this country.
Yes, we got some good news, though. There's a solution that helps protect wildlife and humans. We got Shaylin Batt, the Federal Highway Administrator, joining us to talk about something called wildlife crossings. Mr. Batt, thank you so much for being with us. I'm fortunate enough to be in one of the states that actually had these crossings. But let's talk finances for a second. The Department of Transportation announced $110 million in grants for new wildlife crossings. A, why is this important? And B, what is a wildlife crossing?
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to address this important issue. The bipartisan infrastructure law provided about $350 million a year, about $110 million a year for 5 years to provide these crossings. And the reason they're important is there's about 200 fatalities a year, over 25,000 injuries that occur, and it costs the American taxpayer about $10 billion because of these crashes. And so what we want to do is make sure that people who are number one priority get there safely, but also animals crossing the highways are safe as well.
Are they made out of the natural habitat that these animals are used to? Because it looked as if there was no concrete involved in the video we were showing you. It looked literally like somehow you just got earth over the road
highway
there.
Yeah, so it can look a couple of different ways, but generally we do either an overpass. So this would be like a bridge that you would normally have cars or people moving over, but instead it's got vegetation on it, and the animals just think they're walking, in nature. Or it can be an underpass. Again, there'll be some vegetation there. It can be culverts, and then we also deploy fencing along the highway because we want the animals to be channeled to the safe crossing point.
Can you give us an idea of where these are going to be built? What kind of states are going to be getting A, the funding, and B, having some of these for their wildlife?
Yeah, so it's a big country. In fact, the program was wildly oversubscribed. We got way more in applications than we had in funding that was available. I was out in Arizona. I know that they received a successful grant. Colorado received a successful grant. Virginia, it's a big country, and anywhere where there are highways in the wild, that's where we're going to have animals crossing there. We deployed one of these in Colorado when I was the executive director there and saw a 90% reduction in wildlife crashes the year after we opened it. So we know that they work.
That is huge, a 90% reduction.
Yeah.
What animals do you really see the most interaction with humans on the roads? I'm guessing deer, because I feel like you see them a lot crossing the roads and running into people, but perhaps I'm wrong.
I think it really depends on what part of the country that you're in. So it could be elk, mule deer, grizzly bears in the Pacific Northwest. There's just all sorts of different types of animals out there, raccoons. And what people tend to have is this instinct to swerve. And I think that's part of the other challenge is it doesn't necessarily even matter the size of the animal. Sometimes just the presence of an animal can create a safety issue for drivers.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well, we appreciate your time, Federal Highway Administrator Shaylin Batt. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Good stuff, man.
One time you have a crazy story when you were out, was it Montana or Wyoming? There was a bear on the road that someone had hit.
Yeah.
Jordan fully pulled the bear
off the road.
Off the road.
I mean, someone would have hit it.
Jordan, how did you know that it wasn't,
alive?
Yeah.
It was a grizzly too. So we don't have to go into that story.
But he pulled it off the road.
One of the things, so Washington has one, I was in Oregon, and they have one. But one of the things that I didn't get time to talk to him about, but some of the times they were thinking about doing tunnels.
Yeah, he had mentioned some of them go underground.
And I know that animals are hesitant to go in the tunnels. I mean, they're not used to that.
They're
not used to that. So building the bridges has been really successful so far.
Well, I think you should have shared more about the grizzly because that was a story. Let's get into today's hot topics.
Let's do it.
And we want to warn you about this one. This first story comes with a trigger warning because it deals with dying animals. At least 100 elephants were found dead in Zimbabwe last month, and scientists say drought and climate change are to blame. The elephants were all found in Zimbabwe's largest national park. Officials at the park fear even more will die as drought in the region worsens. Scientists say El Nino is making flooding worse in some parts of Africa, while it's making drought worse in other areas. And it's all being driven by our changing climate. Many of the elephants found were young, elderly, or sick, and all of them unable to travel a long distance to find more water. An average elephant needs 52 gallons of water a day to survive.
And that's one of the biggest problems, right? Because something that we do here in the United States during big drought, like in the Southwest, is the Game and Fish Department will go out and haul water
Yeah, but how can
to
you
animals.
do that, right?
But think about it. The animals we have here, deer, elk, you know, the biggest animal you have like bison and moose, but those are usually more wet climates. So you have an animal that takes 58 gallons a day. You can't haul enough water to save those animals.
No, it's tough.
It's too much.
And I was just, elephants are so smart and they're so empathetic. And I was reading about elephants today, and of course they use their trunk to take the water out. Do you know that elephants have thousands and thousands, like tens of thousands of muscles just in their trunk alone, while us humans, we have something like around 600 muscles in the body, a little over 600 muscles. So just in their trunk alone, to get that water, you're talking tens of thousands of muscles.
Yeah.
They're a really impressive creature, of course, and we need them.
We definitely need them. All right, this is topic number 2. We're talking about how more than 80% of Americans say that they believe recycling is important, right? Makes sense. But only a third of Americans actually recycle. So what can we do to get more people to practice what they preach? Well, apparently, let's pay you, and maybe we'll start there. According to a new report, the 9 states with the highest recycling rates also have deposit return systems. These are sometimes also called bottle bills. In fact, only 27% of Americans live in states that offer cash for bottles and cans, but they account for more than half of the items recycled. So if you're still questioning like what that is, okay, let's think you're buying a glass 6-pack of Coke, Sprite, whatever it is. They're going to charge you a certain price for each bottle, and they're going to add an extra 5 or 10 cents to each one. You go and you pay for it and you don't think anything of it, but if you bring those bottles back, you'll get that deposit back. And if you collect it over time, you could come and return bags of like crushed cans, and you can make a pretty penny.
Do you feel this is a good thing, or should we all just be good to Mother Earth and just be doing this without any sort of financial gain to it?
Yeah, but you gotta, people are lazy. It's like, we can recycle these things, but you have to go here. It's like, no, I want it curbside. We're lazy. So like, what will motivate lazy people? Money would motivate a lot of people. Yes, I agree.
would hope we could do without.
We should.
I actually pay to recycle items. They say, oh, it's $5 for like electronics a lot of times.
But you're unique. Most people won't do that.
Yeah, I would hope that this is something that we could do.
But if they added 5 or 10 cents and you collected it, and over time, get the kids involved, it would really help.
That would. All right, hot topic number 3. Who would have thought plant-based materials could become central to massive wind turbines in the future? Turbines are, central to clean energy future. And that's why there's a lot of excitement going on about the latest steps in all this renewable technology. So a team of scientists at the National Renewable Energy Lab are rolling out a nearly 30-foot tall prototype. And this is a turbine blade. It uses plant-based chemicals taken from plant waste. So as a resin to hold the blades together right now, mostly non-renewable resources like petroleum are used in these blades.
Okay, we got to keep this video going, because can you bring that back? Did you see the look of it? It looked almost like a surfboard. Like, look at it, it's like a balsa wood. It's got this cool look to it compared to what we have now.
I know, it gives a little flair to it, because now they all look the same, and they're just kind of big white.
Right, spinning objects up there. That looks more
You would like for them to have a little more personality to them, a little more uniqueness.
Why not? I think it looks great. Well, more than a million car crashes a year involve wildlife here in the U.S. So what can we do to keep animals and drivers out of danger near all of our highways? Well, we're checking out one really cool solution when we come back.
And here's an invasive species you might not have known about. South Florida has a serious monkey problem on its hand. I had not heard about this.
This is wild.
What?
I didn't either.
The plan in place to reel them in, that is later on Pattrn.
Look at them.